We're four friends who live across the globe
and share a love of Bon Appétit's YouTube channel.
So we came together to bring you our thoughts on what BA serves up
and try our hands at recreating their dishes.
Welcome to Pod Appétit. Hi guys, it's LJ, and for my first solo episode of Pod Appétit, I have chosen to set myself a challenge and cook along with Andy's Bolognese recipe video. Bolognese is a special dish to me in my heart. I was taught to make Bolognese when I was, I think about 14 or 15, when I went on a holiday to Italy. I went on an Italian cookery course with my dad, and amongst the recipes that we were taught that day was Bolognese. And I've kind of considered it almost like my signature dish ever since. I love cooking. I cook a lot for my friends and my family. I've always considered my Bolognese sauce to be one of the best that I know of anyone that can cook Bolognese that I know of. I've kind of tweaked it here and there over the years, like adding extra little bits of seasonings and ingredients, but pretty much it stayed true to what I was taught in Italy. Now, when I watched Andy's video, I nearly fell off my chair. I've been shooketh to my core, guys, because when I watched it, it was like someone was showing me a completely different recipe. It was like he was making a completely different dish, because I would say 90% of what he does in that video, I was like, that's not what I was taught. That's not the way I do it. I've been believing in a lie this entire time, thinking that I can cook the best Bolognese authentic because I've been taught by an Italian, when actually I think I've been fed a load of bullshit. So what's going to happen today is I am going to rewatch that video by Andy, and then I'm going to cook from Andy's recipe, and we'll see how it goes, and then I'll give you the results. I'll come back and tell you how it went, how it tasted, and whether I do think it's actually better than my original version. So without further ado, let's crack into looking at Andy's video. So I'm hitting play on the Bon Appetit video. I'm going to add the link to the video that I'm talking about in the show notes. So I've just hit play. Okay, Andy's on the screen. He's wearing a shirt with holes in. My husband also wears holy shirts. I've never understood it. So this is that part of their BA's Best series that, I don't know if you read the magazine, they develop what they consider to be the best version of recipes. So this is the Bolognese, Best Bolognese. Oh, I forgot Chris is in the background of this video. It's so funny. So Andy's just said that the sauce takes about 3 hours to come together. I would say that is part of the 10% of this recipe I agreed with originally, because low and slow is the way you want to make a Bolognese sauce. That's the way you get the lovely depth of flavour. Oh, Gabby's in the background of this as well. I forgot. Oh, he's got a quart container of lemon water with him. I must remember to have that when I cook. Seems like that might be the secret to success. One of the funny things that they do in this episode is there's a shot of Gabby in the background flinging her hands out and running like the wind, and they keep cutting back to it. It's one of those little editing tricks, things that they do in the YouTube channel that makes Bon Appetit so funny. So first, Andy makes the sofrito. So this is something that I was not taught to do. And maybe the Italian, I want to say he was a chef, but maybe he was just lying to me. So the Italian guy that taught me when I was 14, 15, he didn't teach me to do a sofrito. He taught me to cook some onions. That's the first step. Cook onions really low and slow for like half an hour. I know from researching since that sofrito is a very traditional base for Bolognese. So this will be new for me. Sofrito is obviously onion, celery, and carrot. He's whizzing them up in the food processor, so that would be my preferred way of doing it as well, because who's got time to chop everything? One of the things I object to when my husband does Bolognese is he puts the things in that you'd use in a sofrito, but he doesn't chop them finely. Like, there are massive chunks of carrot in his, which is just rank. I'm going to do it super fine in the food processor like Andy. Make it real bitsy. So Andy's got pancetta. This is something I agree with. I use pancetta in my recipe as well. So Andy's then come on to talking about the fact that he's using beef as opposed to some other recipes which use maybe pork or a mixture of beef and pork. The way I was taught was beef, so I agree with this. Yeah, because the pancetta gives the salt. He's right. What Andy's doing is he's got his beef mince. He's browning that off now. He's picking them up in chunks. I would just chuck the whole lot in and break it up with my implement, like whatever I end up using. He's like got them in like loose round balls, not like actual balls. He's just kind of formed them. I wouldn't have done it like that, but I guess I've got to do it like that because that's how he's doing it and I'm meant to be following him. I gotta do what he's doing. He's going for some deep kind of uneven brownage over and some red areas. He's like not worried about cooking it all the way through because it goes back in later. So he's taking the meat out now, which is not something I would do. He forgot to season the meat. Yeah, I was going to say I would have seasoned it while I was in the pan, but that's fine. I like the way when BA Chef says season it lightly and then they dump a ton of salt on. So he's cooked off the pancetta. He's adding the sofrito in now. See, I would have done all that first and then added the mince in to just brown with it. I'm sure there's a reason why he's not done it like that. He's just cooking the raw flavour off of the sofrito. He's not cooking it for as long as I would have cooked my onions. Okay, he's just added white wine, which was my first objection. I say objection because I have my other podcast is an Ally McBeal podcast, and one of the things we do in every episode is we object when anything terrible happens. So my first objection in this case was I was like, white wine? Who the fuck has white wine in a beef ragu? It's red wine. Like, red wine's surely going to give you a better depth of flavour. What the fuck, Andy? Honestly, my mind's really blown. I'm really shook. So he's breaking up those clumps of beef that he formed earlier. This is what I don't... Maybe it was to get more browning. Then he adds tomato paste, but he does not add tinned chopped tomatoes. Like, it's a tomato sauce. It's like a meaty tomato ragu sauce. How do you get that if you don't add tomatoes? Tomato paste isn't enough. I don't understand this man. But then I looked it up and he's not wrong. I've heard that is authentic. They don't actually add chopped tomatoes. My whole life has been a lie, guys. I really feel quite distressed by this revelation. Now he's adding a bay leaf. Yes, I agree with that. It is traditional. His Marlon Brando impression, guys. It is terrible, isn't it? Okay. This is where he's lost me completely. Chicken stock. My whole... How have I made it to the age of 34 without realising how to make a proper bolognese? Oh my God. Right. I forgot about this and now it's just happened. And forget the chicken stock. The chicken stock's nothing compared to this. He's just added a whole jug of milk. Bolognese has been such a big part of my life. Like, my family, I grew up, we haven't got any Italian heritage, so I don't know why I feel so strongly about this, but my family grew up, like, Italian food was the one thing we all loved eating. We ate a lot of pasta when I was growing up, and my dad makes bolognese, not like this, and I just cannot understand where milk has come from. And if it has always been in a bolognese recipe, how we've completely missed this. I'm so confused. So Andy's saying the reason why he's gone with these more authentic but controversial ingredients, the white wine, the chicken stock over the red wine and the beef stock, is because he wants a more delicate flavour. I'm so curious to see how this works out when I cook it, because honestly, this is like completely alien to me. Okay, so about 2 hours later, it's become like sloppy Joe consistency. He's taken the bay leaf out and now he's cooking the pasta. Oh my God, look at the amount of salt he put in that water. That was like a cup of salt. I need to do that. Okay, so the pasta's cooked and he's transferring it straightly from the pot into the sauce and he's adding a cup's worth of pasta water. Now, this is something that not enough people do, and I love that Pod Appétit treats pasta water like it's liquid gold, because it really is. It's delicious and it just helps that sauce bind together. So he's tossing it in the pan, which, yeah, I would do that. And he's adding some parmesan. There's a funny shot of Andy slurping pappardelle. Oh, he's added a fuck ton more salt. Fine. Okay, he's putting it on a plate, and I gotta say, it looks delicious. It looks like something I wanna plant my face into right now. And now he's using the side of the grater, like a box grater that has the like 3 slits along the side. And I don't know about you guys, but I've never used that side of my box grater because I don't know what it's for. It looks like you can use it I'm sure you can use it for other things, but you can definitely use it to create little shards of Parmesan. Why didn't I know that? I'm definitely going to be doing that. Oh, it looks lovely. He's not wrong. So that was the end of the video, and I am still shooketh to this very moment. I want to trust in Bon Appetit, because I don't think they would steer me wrong on purpose. It's just, you have to understand, it just goes against everything that I thought I knew. So this is going to be interesting. So what I'm going to do now is attempt to make this recipe that Andy just outlined myself. And let's see how it goes. Okay, and now I'm going to start cooking. First things first, I need to pour myself a quart of water. That sounded Australian rather than American. I'm going to do a quart of water, and I actually do have some leftover lemon that I'm going to chuck in it just for the authentic Andy experience. Lemon. Oh, my knives need sharpening. This is already a disaster. The first instruction is pulse onion, celery and carrot in a food processor until very finely chopped. Oh my God, the onion's going to make me sneeze. One of my least favourite things in the entire world is chopping onion, I have to say, and peeling them. Anyone else, when they are pouring stuff out of a chopping board into something else, end up getting all the stuff from the chopping board, like, everywhere? Just me? Okay. Oh no. Just shook the water off my celery and I've snapped it in half. It's a little aggressive there. A small carrot. This looks like a small carrot. And it says peeled and chopped. Peeled. That's another job that I hate in the kitchen. Peeling stuff. I hate peeling potatoes, particularly, actually. Potatoes are one of the grossest things in the kitchen. Once, when I was at college, well, university we call it here, I stayed in my first year in what we call halls. I don't know if you call them that in America. That was with a group of 5 other people. And after the first year, we had to obviously clear out for like the next year of students to come in and take our place whilst we went and lived elsewhere. And as we were clearing out, we found a potato on the top of the kitchen cupboard units. And it had like a tendril, like a shoot. I don't know what you call them, what are those things that grow out of potatoes, that was the entire length of the kitchen from one side of the top of the units to the other. And I was like, that is freaky. Like, why isn't it dead? It's not in the ground. It shouldn't still be growing. Like, is it alive when we cook them? Do we kill potatoes? Do we boil them alive? Is that what happens? So yeah, I've never been a massive fan of potatoes. But there ain't no potatoes in this recipe, it's just carrots, and they are less offensive to cook. So that's good. Oh, that onion is strong. My eyes. Why aren't they all crying in the test kitchen when they cook with onions? It's actually looking pretty pureed, actually. Maybe I've gone a bit too far. His looked a bit like this. Oh my goodness, my eyes are stinging. Why didn't that happen to Andy? Woo! Oh, there's a lot of liquid coming off of this. Maybe it's because I went too far. I'm sure it'll be fine. It all cooks down to nothing anyway. Okay, heat oil in a large pot. So, my big mama Le Creuset. Oh, for fuck's sake. So, we are adding 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Yeah, that is a lot of olive oil. I'm into it. Ah, yeah. I've just put a few clumps in and you can hear that sizzle. It's the right temp. Might even be a little high, actually. Turn it down a little. The joys of an electric hob. Okay, so I saw Andy in the video. He was using tongs to kind of make sure that the clumps don't stick. So what I'm going to do is the same thing. Use my kitchen tongs. I'm going to move them around. They're browning. Like little bits are falling off because they're not bound at all. They're just smushed together. He said that that was okay if bits broke off. I'm kind of turning them I'm just doing like a lap of the pot, turning as I go to kind of make sure that they get some even colour. This is the bit that Andy forgot, which was season with salt. I think my electric salt grinder needs more batteries. It's really struggling. Come on. Russ, can you put more batteries in this? Because it's just run out. Also, it's broken.
We haven't got any. There's 6 AA batteries. We haven't got AA batteries lying around.
Okay. So it says, cook, stirring occasionally but not breaking the meat apart until the beef is lightly browned but not crisp, 6 to 8 minutes. I didn't check the time when I put them in, but I reckon they've been going for about 3 or 4 minutes. Gotta stay hydrated. Having another sip of water. Okay, my time has gone off, and I think now is the right time to take them out because I'm starting to see some browning. Just getting the last little bits of beef that came off of their balls. Oh yeah. Now it says cook the pancetta in the pot over a medium heat. Right, so this pancetta, what have I got here? 120 kg. It asks for 3 ounces. Alexa, what's 3 ounces in grams?
3 ounces is 85 grams.
85 grams. So I don't actually need all of the pancetta that I've bought. Does anyone else only use their Alexa for... oh my goodness, this is a wonderful chunk of pancetta. It's huge. So that's 120. I'm going to guess that that's more like it. This is my perpetual woe as a British fan of Bon Appétit's recipes. Or any American recipes, to be honest, because you guys having to convert cups and ounces and pounds into grams and milliliters is a daily struggle. That's what my Alexa is so good for. The recipe called for thinly sliced pancetta, finely chopped. So I ain't got no industrial machine to thinly slice this. So I'm just doing my goddamn best. This might take a while. Okay, so I've chopped up my pancetta, which I wasn't expecting it to come in a huge chunk like that. I was expecting it to come sliced, but it's okay. So I'm putting my pan back on the heat. Cook pancetta in pot over medium heat, stirring occasionally until the pancetta has released some of its fat and it is crisp, 6 to 8 minutes. So let's remember to put a timer on this time. Let's hydrate while we wait for it to warm up. Delicious. Oh, that smells amazing. It smells so good. So salty and like piggy, I guess. Apologies for any vegetarians or vegans. Oh. I turn it down a little. I can smell that saltiness that Andy was talking about. I feel like this ingredient, the pancetta, is doing quite a lot of the heavy lifting of this dish because it's bringing that salt and that kind of interesting difference of flavour to the beef. So it's not just like a one meat note, do you know what I mean? It's like cutting through beef, which can be quite heavy, just lifting it a bit. Okay, so it's looking quite golden. My timer's not gone off yet, but I think my stove is at not as higher. I mean, it's at a higher temperature than Andy's. Okay, so I'm adding the sofrito mixture, and it says here to add the onion mixture to the pot and cook, stirring until the vegetables are very soft and beginning to stick to the surface. Again, another 6 to 8 minutes. So I'm just going to add on to my timer for 6 minutes and see where that takes us. Oh, my eyes are stinging from that onions.
I'm hoping this cooking will cook that rawness off so I can actually look at the pot. It's like the sun. I can't look directly at it. Let's hydrate while we wait. Boom, 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 boom. Ah, now I can see here the vegetables are starting to catch. This is what I'm looking for. Okay, great. Perfect. So next it says to return the beef to the pot. So that is what I'm going to do. So my beef's gone back in. Now I'll attend to the wine. It says that I'm looking for a cup of white wine. So if you remember, oh my God, that's how ingrained it is in me. I was going to the cupboard for my red wine as opposed to the fridge for my white wine. It just feels so wrong to put white wine in a bolognese. But that's what it says to do. So I'm doing it. It says the meat should be reduced to what looks like little bits. It takes a bit of effort, but you can take breaks. Thanks, Bon Appetit. Whilst I'm waiting for that beef to cook down, I'm going to make myself some chicken stock. Oh no, I don't need to do that. What am I talking about? I bought chicken stock. What a fucking moron. It's in the fridge. There it is. Hooray! So I am using my wooden spoon as instructed to chop, I guess, the little balls of meat. I didn't think this would be that hard, but it kind of is. Like, the way they've been cooked in those balls, they've sort of stuck together. I guess the fat from the meats, like, bound them. They're kind of tough. See, I wouldn't have this issue if I'd done it the way I do it. In this recipe, I'm having to spend time re-mincing my mince. It's okay though. I trust Andy. I'm trusting in Andy. God, this is really hard. I didn't think this would be such a problem, but it really has kind of toughened up, like it's stuck together as it's sort of been sat in that bowl, I think. It's amazing actually because the sofrito mixture has almost dissolved into with the wine, and you can't really see it now. Like you can see the odd glimmer of like some orange sort of pulp in between the mince, but it's becoming as one. Is that a metaphor for something? I don't know. It smells good. I need to stop throwing shade at this recipe. I'm trying to like be the bigger person and admit when I've got something wrong, which is really hard for me. Normally I find it really hard to be like, you know what, that thing I've been adamant about for years, turns out it's not real and I was wrong. Like that's a hard thing for me, but I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to grow as a human in my 3rd decade. Or is it 4th decade? I guess it's 4th decade, yeah. No more lumps, no more lumps. Aha! Another lump vanquished. You thought you could defeat me, lump? You are no match for me, wooden spoon. I just wish the mince looked like a more appetizing colour, but you know, it is what it is. And this isn't the end. We'll get there. We will get there. Still stirring now. I think I've got out all the lumps, so I'm just kind of stirring to make sure nothing sticks. Okay, so my timer's just come off. I think it's dry enough on the bottom of the pan. So the next thing it says to do is add tomato paste, bay leaf, and nutmeg, and cook, stirring occasionally until the tomato paste is slightly darkened, about 5 minutes. I don't know if you guys know if you're American, but we do not use cups as a standard measurement in the UK. We always use grams or milliliters for liquid. Whenever you write a recipe in America and you put cups, it really, really puts off a lot of people in the UK because they're like, I don't know what to do with a cup. Do I just get a cup from my cupboard that I make tea in? Okay, so I'm putting in the tomato paste. Woo! Whoa. So, mixing that. There's a lump that I missed! How dare you, sir? Okay, so I'm mixing that in. Okay, the colour is immediately better. Where's my nutmeg? Nutmeg, baby, nutmeg! Right, I've got a whole nutmeg that I'm going to grate because that's how he did it. Whoa. Get my grater and everything falls out the cupboard. I do have some whole nutmeg, which is what Andy was using. I rarely use it, so I'm ecstatic about the concept of using it for this. I'm just grating some nutmeg in. It says a pinch. Like, how are you supposed to know what a pinch is when you're just grating it in? I've gone for quite a lot there, I think, but I'm sure it's going to be fine. Oh, this is looking good. I feel like anxious just thinking about it. I feel like I'm going to ruin it. It's looking good at the moment. I think this is going to ruin it. It just says pour stock and milk into pot. Like, ain't no thing. It's just such a short sentence. Like, it hasn't realised, like, what a big deal this is. It's such a big deal. 1 cup of whole milk. I'm just going to do it. It's like ripping a Band-Aid. Just do it. Just do it. Oh, God. Oh, God. It's gone in. Oh, my God, it's gone in. Oh, geez. Okay, so the sauce has gone from like a stocky, beefy sauce to like this more creamy looking sauce with, it just looks like a big stew at the moment. Like there's a lot of liquid in there. I knew this would happen. I'm trying not to have palpitations as I've been cooking for an hour and 15 minutes and I'm worried that I've just ruined everything. But this is what Andy's look like. So just looks like a weird creamy mince soup at the moment, which is not the most appetizing sentence that I've ever said. Okay, just calm down. Calm down. Let's turn that hood off. I don't need that anymore. Reduce the heat to the lowest setting, cook uncovered and stirring occasionally until the meat is very, very tender, 2 to 2.5 hours. Okay, right, I'm going to do that. Okay, so I've come back. It's a little over 2.5 hours later, and the sauce is looking exactly like Andy described, which is like a sloppy Joe kind of consistency. It smells super beefy, which is not the smell I necessarily would expect to get off of a Bolognese. Like for me, a Bolognese would smell more tomatoey. But as we've established, I clearly don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to Bolognese. So anyway, the next thing it says to do is to discard the bay leaf. So I'm just going to fish that out. Good job, bay leaf. Your time here is done. And then it says, so this is almost the moment of truth, I would say. It says to taste it and to adjust the seasoning. So this is it, right? I'm going in for my first taste of this so-called Bolognese. That's so interesting. That flavour does have a depth that surprises me, considering it's got no tomatoes, red wine, or beef stock in it. I'm getting salt from the pancetta. I don't think it needs any more. I think that would be too salty. One of my secret ingredients, which I know you don't get, it's not as readily available in the US, but it's very available over here, is Worcester sauce. Liam Perrins, I add a little bit of that, which really seems to give it a bit of a kick as well. And I have to tell you, I'm so tempted to add that in now, but I'm not going to because it's not his recipe. So it may have depth, but I think it's lacking breadth. Is that a thing? Okay, so the next step is for me to concentrate on the pasta because the sauce is pretty much done. I don't want to add any more salt to it. Actually, maybe I'll add a bit of pepper. I've got a pan of boiling water, boiling salted water. I've added a load of salt to that water. So what I'm going to do is chuck my pappardelle in there if I can get into this thing. Cook it until very al dente. Russ is in the kitchen making a batch cooked breakfast for the rest of the week. And I think I like to see him as the Gabby to my Brad. Can you run into the distance with your hands flailing behind you? He just did it. It was funny. So while that pasta is cooking and that horse? So while that pasta is cooking and that sauce is keeping warm, the next thing it says to do is to have some Parmesan ready to chuck in. So I guess I need to grate some Parmesan. Does anyone else keep the rinds of Parmesan? Because if you don't, you really, really should. They are so good in stocks, like sauces. Like that's one of those things that if I had it lying around, I would have just chucked it in with a bolognese sauce because it just adds an extra. You just put it in whilst a stock or a sauce or something is cooking, a stew, a casserole, and then just fish it out. And it just sort of, you know, gives an extra layer of flavour. It's really good. Yeah. Parmesan's one of the world's greatest cheeses, personally speaking. Oh, I just remembered. I shouldn't have grated extra. Oh, because he did shavings, didn't he, using that special slit on the side of the box grater. Oh, I can't believe I forgot about shards. Using tongs, transfer the pasta to the pot with sauce. Add a cup of pasta cooking liquid, which I'm a little concerned about because it feels like that would make things real soupy, but let's see. And the half cup of Parmesan. Increase the heat to medium, bring it to a simmer and cook, tossing constantly until the pasta is al dente and the liquid is slightly thickened, which should be about 2 minutes. So let's get that show on the road. Oh dear. I have to say, it's kind of hard to grab hold of these slippery suckers. Pappardelle is... Ooh. Jesus Christ. He makes this look so easy, just chucking the pappardelle. Okay, I think... Oh, no, still some more. Yeah, let's just say that's everything. Okay, let's just... Oh, hang on. Pasta water. I've got a cup of pasta water. Putting it into the... Putting it into the pot. And now I am tossing... Feels very liquidy. Turning the heat up. I'm chucking the Parmesan in there. It's well mixed. Can you hear that sound? It sounds disgusting. It's like squelchy. I'm just gonna wait for it to simmer. It sounds like it's simmering. And I feel like the 2 minutes it said that it will need is way underestimated. I've just turned it up as well to see if I can reduce it more. It's simmering away there. And I keep stirring so that it doesn't stick to the bottom. Because that's what I'm worried about at the moment now that it's got the pasta in. Okay, I think it's coming together. I think it's starting to thicken up. It's feeling more gloopy than watery. When do I call it? When do I call it? I think I need to stop. I'm going to plate it up and see how it tastes. I'm going to use my fancy plate so I can take a picture and share it with you guys. Is the sound of spaghetti being slopped around sexy or disgusting? Discuss. Okay. I'll leave the rest there because I'm going to have that for my lunch. Okay, so I've got a tiny bit of grated Parmesan left from what I grated earlier, but I do want to try that shards thing. Oh, this is so cool. I definitely need to do this with Parmesan more often. Yeah. Oh, I like that. And now the taste test. I've got a big mouthful, like Andy took. Honestly, I like it. It's really delicious, but I'm not getting the same depth of flavour that I get with all the different things that I put in mine. The Parmesan's nice, and I can taste the salt from the pancetta. If this is technically a more authentic bolognese, then what the fuck have I been making all this time?
So I have finished eating my bolognese. I have took some time to think about how I feel about it, and I've roped in a buddy who is also part of this podcast, Justine.
Hello.
Hi. Justine's agreed to help me talk through my feelings about my existential crisis. My existential bolognese crisis.
Okay, like, just first of all, I love that you have feelings, and I can't wait to hear them all.
many
And
feelings.
I am just really dying to know why do you have an existential crisis? Do you want to get into that first, or what?
Yeah, so as I've explained on this episode, the Bolognese is really important to me. I feel like it's been part of my identity since I was about 15, and I was taught how to make it in Italy by an Italian man, supposedly authentically. Now Andy has come along and ruined my entire life because
Oh my God.
I thought I had a signature dish that I would just roll out when I wanted to impress people. And it's a really good dish. But it turns out it's not Bolognese, because what I've been making, I don't know, but it's not what Andy makes. Andy makes something completely different and calls it Bolognese. And in doing research off of the back of watching his YouTube video, his is more authentic. So I have no idea what the hell I've been
What?
making all these years.
Yeah, what can you tell me what the dish you've been making? Like, how are they different? What have you been doing?
So, first of all, Andy uses no tomatoes in his sauce. To me, Bolognese is like a beef and tomato ragu style sauce, and tomato's a big flavour. Now, Andy uses tomato paste, as you know from the video, but I always put in like a tin of chopped tomatoes as well. And I really play off of that flavour. Like, I was taught to use like sugar to bring the sweetness of the tomatoes out and all that kind of stuff. The other thing with the veg is he uses a mirepoix and just kind of zhuzhes all of his carrot, his celery and his onion up, but only cooks it out for a little bit. Whereas I start with an onion, that's it, and sweat that out really
Sweat it
slow
out.
for like half an hour to get it really sweet and caramelized and all that kind of stuff. And that's like a big part of the flavor as well. I also put garlic in. So the veg is completely different as far as I'm concerned.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, your bolognese sounds really good.
It's really good. It is good, but I don't think it's Bolognese.
Whatever you've made.
But after you've done your meat aspect, I then use beef stock, red wine, the tin tomatoes, obviously.
Yeah. He was also very clear about using chicken stock
He was
and
so
white
clear.
wine.
Right? And then milk. Like, where's this milk come from? Milk doesn't belong in a Bolognese, but apparently it does. Like, I fold in my pasta and everything, but it's just not the same taste at all.
Yeah, it's a completely different sauce you're making, it sounds like.
And I'm like, how have I gone to the age of 34 without realising that what I make is not a Bolognese? Why has nobody told me?
You've never had to Google a bolognese recipe.
No. But also no one, maybe it's a UK thing, but no one I know that makes a Bolognese makes it that way.
But you also said you learned it in Italy.
Yeah, this man, I want to track him down because now I'm not
He's a
convinced
fraud.
he was a chef. Was he even Italian? Like, who was he?
I mean, Andy was doing his Brando impressions through the whole thing. So.
He was. Yeah, that was fun. He was drinking a quart cup of water with lemon in, which I also had whilst I was cooking because I thought that would be part of the experience.
Authentic.
It did help. You get hot, like it's a long cook, like you need some hydration.
I'm curious, how often and when would you make your bolognese dish?
When I was single, it used to be my like go-to, like the first time I cook for someone, to be like, look how great I am at cooking. That would be like my like seduction dish. My husband ate it as well, and I was like, do you know what my bolognese tastes like, right? And he's like, yeah, I had it so many times, like years ago when we were first dating.
Wow.
But then when he was eating Andy's, he was like, yeah. And I was like, so do you think it's better than mine? And he was like, to be honest, I haven't had yours in so long, like I can't even remember it, and Andy's is obviously
goodness.
better. And I was like, well, I hate you and you can die now.
Oh.
He said that just to wind me up.
Does yours also take 3 hours to make?
Yeah, pretty much. Like just cooking the onions is half an hour on its own, and then I would like sweat out the beef and put all the liquid in, and then really like slowly reduce it over the course of a couple of hours. So definitely, yeah, I would agree with him on that, on the timing. You have to do it slow.
It takes a long time to cook. I mean, like, I would not want to make this dish because takes forever.
Yeah,
I am not someone who like, I couldn't do it.
I think it's one of those things that I really like doing on a weekend when you've got time, and it keeps quite well in the freezer, so you can make a big old batch and then you've got it for like lunch or whatever in the week. It is good for that. like cooking relaxes me, so I like to do it when I've got like a whole day when I don't have to worry about it. So that was good for that today.
Especially if you're planning on seducing someone.
Oh, for sure.
Noted. It's your seduction pasta.
I do, yeah, it is, and I do less of that these days. But if I ever have a new friend, I'm like, come round and I'll make bolognese. Although now I'll be like, come round and I'll make meat tomato sauce.
Oh, don't say that. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
I hate to say it, how it turned out. Like, I liked it. Like, it was a good dish of food. I ate it, obviously. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, but I think I prefer mine. And now I'm worried that Andy will hate me if I say that.
That's your other existential crisis?
Yeah.
You could never invite Andy over for bolognese.
I just think it's like, there's something wrong about us doing a fan cast of Bon Appetit and then me going, so the first recipe I've made is I didn't like. Or I do like it. So that's the thing. I want to stress. I did like it. It's a nice dish. I just think if I was in a restaurant and like I knew the menu and I'd had all the dishes before and like my whatever it is, like beef ragu was on the menu and Andy's bolognese was also on the menu, I would probably choose mine.
That's valid.
But what do I even call mine now? I don't even know. I can't call it bolognese.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's like the part I feel worse about is that when you make your dish now, you don't even want to call it a bolognese.
I can't. Yeah, when people come round, like it doesn't sound like if I say, guys, come round for dinner, I'll make a ragu. Like any Joe Schmo can make a ragu. A bolognese just sounds more impressive. So I need to come up with a fancy word for it, I think. I don't know what.
When I was growing up, we had something that we called goulash when I was a kid, except here's what I didn't know. Our goulash was just like beef that was like browned in a pan plus like a can of beans.
Okay.
And that's all it was.
Okay. Isn't there more, there's like tomato and stuff in goulash?
Oh yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot in actual goulash that I didn't know for a very, very, very long time. And it's not something that I make. But I do still refer to like what my family made as goulash. Because it means something to me. Even though it's just really simple, just baked beans and beef and we put like cheese in it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's your goulash.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like that.
I don't think that this should take away from your experiences. I don't know if you want to call it something else. You'd be like, this is the English bolognese. This is how we do it here.
Maybe.
London style.
London style bolognese. Yeah, that's interesting. I feel better now knowing that other people have accidentally thought a dish was something for ages. I'm not the only one because I felt real stupid.
No. And I do think like going through these recipes, as you say, there are things that you learned and you liked and you're going to put that into your own sort of cooking growth.
Yeah.
So just take what you like and leave those crises behind.
Let's not carry that baggage with us. Let's shed it and just be like, I've evolved, things evolve, you learn things, and now I've got 2 recipes instead of just 1, so that's good. No.
Thanks for listening to Pod Appétit, a Bon Appetit fan cast.
We'd love to hear from you, so find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest at pod_appetit.
And on Facebook at Pod Appétit Podcast.
You can also email us at podappetitpodcast@gmail.com and find all of our episodes on our website, podappetitpodcast.com.
Until next time, the test kitchen is closed.
Hi, we're Eliza,
Allison,
and Carlin, and we're the hosts of Resolved Mysteries podcast. Our podcast follows the 80s and 90s television show Unsolved Mysteries, hosted by Robert Stack. We have a love for true crime and the unsolved.
If you don't remember Unsolved Mysteries, we forgive you, but you don't have to know to get into our show. If you like true crime stuff, ghost stuff, alien stuff, or just stories about weird shit like Bigfoot, this is your podcast.
The stories we cover range from totally ridiculous to truly heartbreaking. We do detailed research on all all of the segments that Unsolved Mysteries aired, then drink some wine and give you the latest updates on every case. We talk about stories that will leave you laughing, crying, and occasionally outraged.
Resolved Mysteries podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you get your favorite pods. Join us, and perhaps you may be able to help solve a mystery.